Jews and Gentiles, Israelites, Canaanites, all of these groups that sometimes can be very confusing. Who are they? What was their relationship with Christianity? What do they mean to us today? Well, we hear in today's gospel this mention of a Canaanite woman who is apparently kind of on the fringes of society, in fact, on the fringe of any relationship with Jesus himself. But we also know that there is a calling of the Israelite people, as Jesus is saying, is that's who he's come to save. That's who he's come to serve. And so we might get confused and say, well, what is this about? Doesn't Jesus care about all people? Doesn't he want to save all people? Well, the truth of the matter is that Jesus came and selected a group of people, the Israelites, to particularly spread this good news of salvation to all the world. They were not selected just to be this exclusive club of Christianity, but rather they were privileged, if you will, and even given a great responsibility to go forth and to be light to the nations, to not hold their faith to themselves, but rather to share the faith of Christianity with all people. So too, for us in our baptismal call. Each of us, through our baptism, were chosen by God, beloved, adopted sons and daughters, to not just hold our faith to ourselves or to be private about it, but rather to go share the faith with all of the world. Perhaps we can relate in some ways to the Canaanite woman because it's not always easy, right, to share the faith. Sometimes we get reserved. Sometimes we think it's not politically correct. Sometimes we worry about what someone will think in our workplace if we happen to have an expression of Christianity that we wear a cross, or in our office some kind of symbol of Christianity, even to talk about Christ in his church. The Canaanite woman gives us an example of what it is that we're called to in our own faith journey, because she comes begging the Lord. She comes begging the Lord. She asks him, have pity on me, Lord, Son of David. She recognizes him as a Savior, and she asks for this great pity upon her own child, who has been tormented by a demon. At first, we wonder, why does Jesus not immediately come to her? Why doesn't he immediately cure her daughter? And there's a lot of speculation of many theologians over the years about why that is, but the important thing is that she didn't give up. She persevered in asking the Lord for the deepest desire of her heart, for her daughter to be healed, to be freed from the darkness that she was bearing. And it's in that kind of begging the Lord that he has mercy, that he has this great pity, this great compassion. And his response is so beautiful. "O woman, great is your faith." So here's someone who's kind of been on the outskirts. The Canaanites were considered as the Gentiles, but even worse in the sense of they were unclean, they were on the fringes of society, and they were the greatest pagan worshipers. And now Jesus is, through her desire that he has placed on her heart, bringing her into the fullness of communion with him, into the fullness of unity of faith. And he acknowledges this. Great is your faith. So often, that's us, right? That we feel like we're on the fringes, even though we know we're baptized, we know we're chosen, we know that we're called to be light to the nations and light to the world around us, light to our families, light to our community, light to our workplaces, light to our classrooms. And yet, sometimes we fail at that. But like the Canaanite woman, the Lord wants us to beg him, Lord, help us to come back into that full communion. Heal us. Heal our family members. Heal our community. Heal those that you place in my path. And he wants to do that. When's the last time that you got on your knees and begged the Lord for healing? For yourself, for a family member, for a friend that you know is struggling, for maybe somebody you just met, but you realize that they need God's grace in their lives. It's a powerful prayer. It's a prayer that the Lord wants to answer. It's a prayer that he wants to, like the Canaanite woman, bring people into that communion with him. Each year when we have RCIA, the Rite of Christian Initiation for Adults, I'm so deeply moved by this desire that we see of our candidates and catechumens, that their desire to be closer to Christ, their desire to be closer to the community of the faithful, their desire to be that light to the nations. In fact, so often they become a witness to us. Some of the most faithful Catholics I know are converts to the Catholic Church. They have come in on their own free will as adults and come to be light to the nations. And so they're light to us, and their example and their desire and in their journey of faith, they become that light so beautifully. In so many ways in our lives, it's a sign of God's love and mercy among us. It's a sign of that mercy because we know that we're not worthy as Christians, but we always know that we can be willing to follow Christ. And their witness helps us to amp up our own journey of faith. Today, as we receive two of our brothers, a brother and sister, into the full communion of the Catholic faith, we want you to know that you're a witness to us, a light to the nations, if you will. And it's a great inspiration as a community of faith to be able to be a part of your journey in a small way. I want to say thank you to their sponsors, to their family members, to those who have journeyed with them, their catechists, because this is a commitment to really living out that gift of faith that we've all been given in our baptismal call. Today, as we celebrate these sacraments, perhaps for all of us, it will reignite that great flame within each of our hearts and minds, our souls, that we are called, all of us, to be light to the nations. A great privilege to be the light of Christ in the world in which we live.